Bonjour, podcast listener. That was French, if you didn't know already. Je m'appelle JJ, and this is JJ Meets Le Monde, which is world in French. Why am I giving you so much of an education in French? No reason. It has nothing to do with this episode. But you know what does? Some really great feedback that Tucker and I have had, plus an amazing story that you're going to want to stick around until the very end. Sit back, relax, enjoy this episode of JJ Meets Le Monde. And by the way, if you'd like to help support our podcast, visit jjmeetsworld.com where you can donate to our Patreon, pick up some killer swag at our merch shop, or click the link to Apple Podcast and give us a 5-star review.
1, 2, 3, 4. JJ Gordon, sort of like that Indiana Jones, in that he's always sniffing out his next adventure. Yes, he is. He's always interviewing guests so he can have them on his show and they can talk about pop culture, arts, and leisure. JJ has his flag unfurled and he likes his french fries curled, and he's fun and then he twirled as he goes to meet the world. He will march into the rain even if his ankle sprained. Take a peek inside his brain. This podcast is called JJ Meets World.
I'm fairly confident, JJ, that I just made a commercial that will make your sister cry.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
What is there someone in it who looks like me? Who's in a bad way?
No. It's all stock footage.
Really?
Yeah. I think it would make Chrissy cry. I really think so. In fact, once it's approved by the client and it's out there, I want to get it in front of her somehow and see what it does. Not let her know, hey, Tucker produced this. Just find a way to see if she reacts to it emotionally or not.
There are several commercials I know, like the Folgers. Peter is home from college and he makes coffee, and then the little girl wakes up, and then her parents wake up. That's one that gets Chrissy hardcore. 3 different scenes in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Most of Uncle Buck, and I think it's because she associates me with John Candy. So when she sees John Candy pulling his trunk across the field all by himself, she thinks of me. But you know what makes Chrissy cry the hardest in popular culture, Tucker? The absolute hardest, bar none.
What?
There is an episode of Law and Order SVU where a bunch of kids who are very wealthy do something unthinkable to a young lady, and the kid who like gets taken along and like doesn't instigate it, but he doesn't stop it, and spends most of the time on the stand, and you're kind of thinking like, oh, I don't know, like he didn't really do anything, but ends up getting sentenced to life in prison. And
Damn.
He looks exactly like me. So much so that when this episode, she and Phil Lund were watching like an SVU marathon, so much so that when they saw this episode, they both broke down in tears as the character that looks just like me is being sentenced for rape and being put away for life and being taken away by the bailiffs. And my sister says, she's like, I saw that episode one other time. She's like, and I couldn't take it. I couldn't watch the last 10 minutes of it. And she now knows which episode that is. So when she's flipping through channels, if she arrives on that episode, she's like, nope. And she goes right past it.
I need to ask her what episode that is, because I want to see this.
Yeah.
I want to see what my reaction would be. I might laugh.
Right. You might be like, well, I got what he deserved. There's also a short-lived sci-fi show that is about like a virus that comes from outer space. And there is a portly female scientist. And when she is in her spacesuit floating in space, because of the way the lighting is, Jill has always told me that I look just like that scientist. So much so that I believe that in her phone, the image of that person may still be the image when I call. And she's like, and people have been like, oh, JJ's calling, and they know it without seeing the name. So to each their own. Everybody's got their own thing. And
there's no one in this commercial that I made that looks like you.
Nobody.
So that cuts against the chances that she'll cry, but I think she's gonna cry.
I think that there's a good potential for that. There just
And it's-
naturally is.
And it's stock footage. Like, I didn't shoot it. I recorded a song for it. Or I shouldn't say I recorded. I hired an artist in town to come in and record a song for it and then cut stock footage to it. And I think it'll make her cry.
Here's a question that I was just thinking of. So you use the term artist in reference to a musician, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So like a musician is an artist, but not all artists are musicians,
Correct.
right?
Yep.
So if somebody is a painter, they can be a painter as well as an artist, but not necessarily a musician. Not saying they can't be, but not necessarily in the description of it, right?
Correct.
So where does the term artist end? And this is the reason I ask. For a long time, corporate branding at Subway listed their employees as sandwich artists. So the deep question here is, what actually makes an artist where you can be called an artist? And then do you get to name your subgenre? Right? Like people have even said like, oh, he's an artist with an oil pan. You know, because he's such an artist when it comes to oil changes in cars. But I think of that as someone being silly and facetious.
I think it's someone saying, I appreciate the thing that they're doing so much. To me, it is art, and therefore they would be the artist.
Okay.
So I don't know.
Can we please call him an artiste?
Artiste. I think artiste is really about, hey, someone engaged in an act. So you could say, like, if someone is taking a poop right now, well, that person's a pooper, right?
Yeah.
So they're taking a poop. Someone can be an artist if they themselves are expressing themselves through art, right? They're creating something and expressing themselves that way. I think you can also appreciate what someone is doing as art. So like one time I saw a guy, what's the street right next to the Fargo Forum and Fifth Street, I think.
Okay.
It's really narrow there. And there's a really narrow alleyway there that they have a gigantic semi truck back into. And I don't know if it's like part of the forum, like if that's what they're loading papers or whatever it is. But I've seen this semi truck have to go through this crazy narrow passage and back this thing up. And every time I've seen the guy do it, he's so good at it. Like he's clearly done it thousands of times before. And it's so well done. To me, it's like a work of art. So to me, if that's a work of art, then to me, him in that moment is an artist.
Okay, so to go further into that, okay, so I don't disagree. I don't disagree at all with what you're saying. But let's take one step further. When do you take away the term artist from someone? Because I also believe that there are people who call themselves artists, and it might be in one of the more traditional genres of art, painting, music, etc., where you're like, no, you don't actually get to own this anymore.
You don't get.
Does that make sense?
You don't get to be seen as an artist anymore.
Yeah, like,
do you have an example?
Okay, here, yes, here's an example. Somebody who painted for like a month and made 4 paintings, and it's 5 years later, and they still call themselves an artist.
Oh, sure.
And
Yeah, they're not
currently producing. Yeah, exactly. And it's to the point of where it's like, well, you didn't even, you spent more time as a Costco chicken baker than you did painting, but you keep telling us that you are an artist and you have an artist's soul and you need art.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like, if you pooped 5 years ago and haven't pooped since then, and then say, yeah, I'm a real pooper, I'm a real shitter, I'd be like, no, you did that 5 years ago. You haven't done it forever since then. So I'm not going to call you one of those until you do it again. And I think the same would be said with your example. I think a lot of people, oftentimes, like in movies and TV shows, when someone says, hey, what do you do? And the person goes, I'm an artist. That's usually meant to make you kind of hate that person. Right?
Yep.
Like that's the first thing they say is I'm an artist. I mean, it might be true, but for the vast majority of people, that's just, they might even say, well, I'm a singer-songwriter. Well, that's interesting. Okay, that's a bit more concrete. You're doing that. But when they just say, oh, I'm an artist, I'm a creative, that'll I could see that making you bristle.
When I lived in Chicago, I knew people who studied art, like our friend Will, right? Will studied art. But I also knew other people who were like, oh yeah, I'm an artist and I'm, working on this, and this. And I'm like, no, actually you're drunk. Or, well, no, actually, you're a glommer, you're a glommer-oner. And not that I think like it's weird because no one likes labels, right? No one wants to label themselves. No labeling. But I think that we do like labels in some respect. I mean, it's the reason why business cards have been the labels of the business world for a long time. And right? Am I wrong?
I'm still in marketing mode right now for my job. So just picturing like a business card company going, business cards, the labeling of the business world since 1927.
Right? Kenneth Papers labeling you since the creation of man.
Oh my God. I got maybe the worst client note I've ever gotten.
Oh, do tell.
Within this last week. I'm not going to say who the client is.
Okay.
They are very nice people. But we were working on a video for them and had sent them like the latest draft of this video.
Uh-huh.
And they email back after the weekend and they go, hey, so I watched it. I really liked the video, but here's the issue I'm having. When I watch the video, I'm focusing on the video, but I'm not really paying attention to the audio. However, when I close my eyes, now I can focus on the audio, but now I can't see the video. So can you fix that?
Oh. How are you going to fix that, Tucker?
I haven't even I just realized I haven't even responded to that email yet. I think I got that on Monday. And I didn't know what to say then, and I still don't know what to say now.
In all honesty, you know what I would do is I would say, hey, listen, got your note, totally understand, try this one, and send them the exact same file.
I might.
And then when they're like, yes, note taken perfectly. Now I'm hearing and seeing at the same time. Do you want to know the worst piece of feedback I ever got? Yeah. And this one cut me so deep that even our production department at work was like, we're gonna assign this to somebody else. The client feedback was, she sounds like she's unhappy. And it was my voice. And that's
awesome.
Yeah, it'd be one thing if it was he sounds like, or she sounds like he's unhappy, but they put she in there twice. It was not a mistake.
Yeah, that girl you got working, JJ, that girl.
Yeah. That broad. Someone give her some happy pills and get her to re-record this ad. We got chicken sandwiches to sell.
God, before that note, the worst note I'd ever gotten was from another company in town that I think they do windows and siding and stuff, and they have a duck in a trench coat as their logo.
I know the company.
And there was a sales piece video that the place I was working at had made for them previously to me being there. But they had used music that ended up being copyrighted, and they'd gotten a cease and desist and a bill for like 10 grand or something. So they had to swap it out. They had to do something new. Well, this had been made by a previous editor who wasn't there anymore, and the original working file wasn't available. So there wasn't any way to go into the video and extract the music out of it and just replace it with something else. So we were brainstorming like what we were going to do, and the client contacted us and said, here's all we want you to do. We want you to go through the video and mute every place in the video that has music on it. But then just fill that with the sound of ducks quacking.
What?
And now we're talking about a video that's close to 10 minutes long. And it would be footage of their product on houses and then these small little interviews in between all these sections of footage. The interviews never had music underneath them, so we could keep the interviews. So that was kind of nice, right? But then it would be like 2 minutes of windows and just quack, 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 quack. But it gets worse, JJ. We were like, okay, well, that's going to be a lot of quacking. We'll see if we can, I guess, find enough sound effects to fill for that. And they said, don't even worry about that. We got this covered. We have hired a professional duck caller, and he'll come into your studio and record some quacks, and then you can use those. And we were like, okay. And so a guy came in to the studio with his duck quack thing or whatever. And I wasn't the one recording him. A coworker was. I just heard the quacking down the hall. And then the guy leaves and I get the file, and he only did like 6 or 7 different quacks.
So he came in and he's like, quack, quack. Quack, 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 quack,
Yeah.
quack, quack, and like,
Yeah.
and he's like,
Yeah.
there you go,
There you
and he
go.
goes, and he goes, and here's a rooster just for good measure. Arr, 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 arr.
Yeah. And that was all I had to work with. And so I just had to loop this quacking.
Oh,
And
boy.
it made the whole piece completely unwatchable and unlistenable. And there was no talking them out of it. So that'd be the second worst one. But yeah, my brain can't pair sound and light. I don't know how to fix that one.
I had a client request from an improv show that I did, and this improv show was at a Santa related event. Okay, so kids would come and eat pancakes, and then they would get to meet Santa Claus. And the review was that there wasn't enough Santa related material. And I'm like, okay, I can take that note. I did tell you that the audience gets to choose it. That's the nature of improv. You're looking for a sketch comedy troupe. We are an improv troupe. But the second one is the thing that got me the most. There weren't enough jokes that would go over the kids' heads while still making them laugh and making adults laugh.
What is this, a workshop?
Well, and I was like, oh, so you want me to come up there and say something like, oh, I saw mommy kissing Santa Claus below the belt.
Yeah,
And the kids
on the
are like,
Jingle Bells.
yeah, exactly. Maybe they should have hired you. But I'm like, is that what you're looking for? Because if it is, I don't want to do that show, actually. Thank you so much. Tucker, I'm going to let you know something that's going to be happening on JJ Meets World, because I have opened a Pandora's box, but I think it's going to be good for us.
Okay.
Our listenership recently grew because one of my passions, of course, is improv, and I have been lucky enough to be an advisor for improv for Fargo Public Schools for almost a decade. And recently, I moved from Fargo North to Fargo South, and I gave all the kids JJ Meets World t-shirts because I'm sick and tired of moving that box in my house. And so I was like, here you go, kids, enjoy this. And they're like, what is this? And I'm like, well, it's a podcast I have. And some of the kids actually started listening to the podcast.
Okay.
And one of them said, like, well, why don't you just have me as a guest on? And I said, okay. And I maybe should have done that not in front of everyone, because now everyone wants to be a guest on JJ Meets World.
Oh, JJ.
But I do think that there is a world, because
Kids who are listening, I love you. You're great.
do you know some of my favorite episodes that we've ever done are the ones when we were invited to Concordia College,
Oh, yeah. Those are fun.
because it's not even 50-50. It's like 20-80 about whether or not it's going to be a good conversation with one of those students.
yeah.
But when they hit hard, right?
Yeah.
And you just want to enjoy it when you do get one that works. And so I think it'll be all right. You know what else I want to do is I want to interview someone who works for City of Fargo Sanitation. You know, I want to
we can make that happen.
Garbage man on here because I've interviewed somebody who worked in the actual truck for my other gig, and it was kind of fascinating to hear like everything that goes on. And then about like all the stuff he goes, yeah, one time I was going and like, you know, it's one person running that machine now, and it's got an electronic arm that comes out and grabs your garbage can and like does it. And he said like someone had a 16-foot 2x4 sticking out of their garbage. And he goes, I can't take that. I can't take that. You at the bare minimum, you got to cut that into 4 chunkers, like, you know, 4-foot chunkers. So I feel like there's funny stories from people who are out there doing that kind of thing in the world. And maybe there's a world where we can find some really great stuff there. I did have a subject I wanted to bring up. And it's okay because it'll go pretty quick here now that we've done the important part of the podcast, which is the hangout, right?
Yeah.
Part of this. So as of our recording, it's Valentine's Day, and Jill got me a great Valentine, and I'm gonna hold my camera up to the microphone here, so please bear with me on this one, but Jill has been really good about getting me cameos. And are you familiar with cameos, Tucker?
Hell yes, I am. I'm excited to find out who this is going to be.
And she always makes interesting choices for cameos. Like when we got into Below Deck, that was one of them. But this cameo is really just fantastic. And so I'm going to get it loaded up here. Here we go. Open. It's weird because like trying to save cameos can be tough too, but okay, here we go.
Hello, JJ. John Lovitz here.
Ooh.
And I was contacted by your wife, Jill Gordon. Yes. Oh, relax. I've never met her. Anyway, she wanted me to tell you something. Now, what the hell was it? Oh, happy Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day, sweetheart. I know, it's weird coming from me. Well, that was Jill's idea, not mine. I don't even know you. But you know me, and Jill tells me you're a big fan of The Critic. So I'll do a little for you. Hello, I'm Jay Sherman, and coming up, it's Valentine's Day. And here's a Valentine going out from Jill Gordon to JJ. Oh, darling. Coming attractions will show you more following tomorrow's film. Yes, I just made that up. Here's another one. Hello, I'm Jay Sherman from Coming Attractions, and Jill Gordon has a message for her husband, JJ. It stinks. Now, I don't know what it's referring to, but, well, use your imagination, and happy Valentine's Day.
Isn't that just lovely?
That is awesome. Good job, Jill.
Yeah,
very good job, Jill.
And you know what? I have gotten here's what really amazes me. People who are on Cameo, even at the very minimum, the reality stars, the C-level celebrities, have at least been around production. Okay. And these people clearly have not learned anything. So I bought one for Jill a few years ago that has Danny Trejo in it. And it is a room with tile floors and very high ceiling, and he is, I kid you not, 25 feet from where the camera is, seated in just a chair that doesn't, it's not a chair that's supposed to be in the room. It's like they pulled over a dining room chair, and he's like, you know, in the background, and it just so hot. It is awful. It's just the worst. And a couple of, you know, like, and for this one, for John Lovitz, he's clearly in a hotel room somewhere.
Yeah,
because
just knocking out a few cameos.
Yep, exactly. Like you can see, and it's like not even a nice hotel room. It is a pretty standard, like, you know, like Holiday Inn suite. But so that's also the other thing too, is there's a sadness when it comes to Cameo because you get to pull the curtain back. For a long time, one of my favorite things to do was to Google celebrities' net worth. Did you ever do that?
Yeah, I've done that before.
Okay, there's no way that can be correct, like what I'm reading. There's no way that the information that they're providing me can be correct in some cases. some it's too high and some it's too low. You think to yourself, like, there's no way. Like, name a celebrity, and I will Google them right now. Net worth.
Jon Stewart.
Jon Stewart net worth. What do you think it's going to come in at?
I think it's going to come in at around like 20 mil.
20 million.
I bet that's low. Low.
120 million.
Yeah, it's way low. Way low.
And so you're like, oh, geez, Jon Stewart's really doing well for himself. Okay. So then let's go like David. Well, no, David Schwimmer did pretty good with Friends.
What about the guy who played the son on Married with Children?
Oh, yeah. What was his name? Bert Faustino?
David Faustino? No. Yeah.
Yeah,
no.
I think it's Bert is wrong. His name's not Bert Faustino. It's definitely David Faustino. But his brother Bert, that's a good guy. That's a good guy. Okay. So here we go. David Faustino, who did not do much post Married with Children, right? $6 million. $6 million.
Still doing good.
Yeah, he must be doing pretty well with like residuals and things like that, right?
I guess so.
And by the way, he just turned 51 years old.
Congratulations, David Faustino.
Let's do this. I'm gonna.
What can you clue me in as to like average pricing you can expect to confront if you're trying to hire a cameo? I mean, I know it's going to change based off of, I'm sure, the demand of the celebrity, or like how many people want, how big a deal they are.
Sure. I think.
What do you think on average you're spending?
I think you can get a good cameo for $75.
Okay.
And it may not it might be someone who identifies themselves as like a character they play in something else, like somebody who's in Curb Your Enthusiasm in one episode, like the guy who played the soup Nazi in, like you can get him for $75, but then you can also get like Jason Alexander for $500.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So there's something. There's something there.
I think I found it. Yeah, there it is. Ada Turturro. Ada Turturro has had like a new, almost like a new career on Cameo. Like it's what she does now, but like hers are getting authentic, positive fan reviews, because you'll buy a cameo from her. She'll send you like a 10-minute video.
Yeah, I think that that is one thing that people really they like. Okay, back in the day, there used to be a 1-800 number you could call, and it was called the birthday call list, and you could pick from maybe like 10 B and C level celebrities, and you could arrange for them to call you like on your birthday. This is like in landline time, and I saw a late night infomercial for it, and like one of them was the guy who played Q in Star Trek The Next Generation. And in this little thing he said like, yeah, I call you and I'm like, hey, it's Q, and he would tell you something, blah, blah, and then he's like, your friend wants to wish you happy birthday. He goes, but I ended up talking with these people for like 10 minutes on the phone. And he said like that was a lot of fun. He goes, and then some other people just go like, hey, how's it going, happy birthday, and then be done with it.
I bet that's what Howie Mandel would do.
I bet it is.
Have you gotten any blowback from his people? Are we going to get sued yet for spilling the tea on Howie Mandel on this show?
A lot of other people have been reaching out to me saying like, finally, it's about time someone exposed him.
You know what I realized?
I said, you're welcome.
You know what I realized the other day? Because I like to live vicariously through the fact that you are a local celebrity and work at like the longest running, most highly rated like radio station in the area. And because you do news coverage, that means that oftentimes if I see a news story going on in town, it may have come across your desk at some point in some way. And so whenever there's like a public firing or whatever, I always text you and be like, hey, what do you know? I want to know about this. What's the straight dope? What are they not reporting? And I'd say 6 out of 10 times you've got something for me. Like, yeah. you've got like, hey, here's a morsel that that my sources are saying? Like, what is it like to have sources, JJ?
Okay, sources is actually pretty awesome. Because there'll be like, it's not just sources, it's also things like tip lines. Like you'll get a tip from somebody about a story. And what I think is really interesting is a lot of those people who do something like a tip line is you are giving that to me because you know it's newsworthy, but you don't want to be involved with it itself. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so the amount of people like who will call and be like, "Hey, did you know that this is happening?" Or the amount of people are like, "Listen, my neighbors just got busted for blank." It's really great. It's awesome. And then the amount of people who just trust me for no reason whatsoever. Like no reason whatsoever. And that was also really, really touching in a way. It's just really, it feels good when it comes down to it. But, what the thing is so like the news team that I work with on a constant basis gets things like full court records and the full like police reports on stuff. And a lot of times, a full police report isn't included in the story. You're getting, the most important information and then you go from there. But there is some stuff that like is both, how do I want to put this, is heartbreaking for so many different reasons. And also like, you're like, oh, well, this isn't actually the full story, like there's something missing here. So I don't know. We'll find out what happens as time goes on with me and everything that I'm privy to.
You're a regular Jimmy Olsen.
You think so?
Yeah.
I didn't think anyone trusted Jimmy Olsen. They're like, go get coffee.
That's that's my favorite over here in The Sopranos. The Jimmy Olsen over here.
Did I tell you about the sick burn? Did I include that in the last episode? The sick burn I heard recently.
I don't know.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I was with a bunch of improv kids. And they were doing a scene, and the scene is called Jeopardy, and it's a fake version of the game show Jeopardy, where someone gives they're like, oh, things that are bigger in Texas, and then someone has to, from the crowd, name something like snakes, and so you have to come up with a question that has the answer snakes. It's a great game. I love it. It's a ton of fun. So the kid who was hosting it, who was acting as the Alex Trebek, was the answer was turtles. And they were all talking about how, turtles, you got to be careful. And he goes, that's why I use paper straws every day. And this girl, who is one of the contestants, turns to him and goes, yeah, it shows. And I thought, that is the harshest thing I've ever heard. Telling someone that it shows that they use paper straws. What does that even mean?
I don't know. Right?
But think about it. Think about it in your mind, though. Like, you can see that person, can't you? Like the person who gloats about using paper straws.
Okay, like I can see. Yeah, it's visible to me that you are environmentally conscious.
but not just environmentally conscious, but has to virtue signal about it.
Oh, sure.
Like has to share it.
Listen, I love turtles. I also love plastic straws.
Yeah.
And
okay.
I think I can have both in my life. I really think I can.
I can't watch people who post videos of like them pulling a straw out of like a sea turtle's nose.
Oh yeah,
and
I don't want to watch that.
I know that happens, and it breaks my heart every time. And part of me wants to say I don't need a straw 95% of the time. I'm fine. But they're already putting the straw on my table.
Yeah, it's already there.
Right? Like, yeah. And like they're not taking it back and putting it in the hopper. They are now throwing out the paper wrapped plastic straw at the end of this. So
yeah. It's the existence of them in the first place.
It is. It's a tough pill. It's a tough pill to swallow.
JJ, what should I order for dinner? I don't know. I am staring at UberEats.com, and I am looking at the foods.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Why are you choosing Uber Eats?
Whenever I've done DoorDash, every
Uh-huh.
single time it's gotten completely messed up.
Yeah, they are the worst. They
like
are the
they're-
worst.
Absolute worst. I'm in my sweats. I don't want to go somewhere, and I've got a lot of work I got to get done tonight, and so I'm gonna treat myself to some delivery. But I don't know. I'm paralyzed with choice. I've been doing pizza a lot lately, and I need to not. But I mean, it's pizza, right? I mean, it's pizza. But I'm looking at other stuff. I also kind of just want ice cream, like
Okay.
just ice cream.
Just ice cream.
So like Dairy Queen would be an
Well,
option.
they've got hot eats and cool treats.
I know they do, but I think I only have room in my tummy for like the size of maybe a Blizzard.
Would you
and
like
maybe
hold on, shut up. Let me give you a hot tip. So I don't know if you know this, but Dairy Queen sponsors a lot of things I do in my day job. Like
Okay.
a lot of things. And I actually know one of the managers. She started off working at the Dairy Queen in the mall when she was 16, and now she's 40 and she manages the Dairy Queen. I think she's going to end up owning a Dairy Queen. She tipped me off to this. What you got to do is get yourself the chicken tenders, but instead of getting a ranch or a buffalo sauce for the dip, get the gravy that they would put on like their biscuits and gravy, and it'll change your life. And
Interesting.
I have not heard any complaints about it, and I've pushed so many people to do that.
Interesting. I
Yeah.
could go for some chicken strips. That's not a bad idea. That's not a bad idea at all.
Also, I want to throw this out there because by the time this episode airs, we'll have seen the 50th anniversary special for Saturday Night Live, which airs on Sunday. This episode comes out on Monday. I was reminiscing with someone because I remember when the 25th anniversary special came out, I videotaped it on a VHS tape, which I still have. It is in the bowels of my house. I watched it at my lake cabin, but there was a joke that I still find funny today, and I brought it up on the radio. Do you know who Victoria Jackson is? Like when I say Victoria Jackson, do you know that cast member?
Yeah.
Okay, blonde. She was like, she was like the good-looking cast member. I never really found her that attractive, but maybe it was just a different time in the early 90s and late 80s. So at the 25th, Tom Hanks is doing this thing where he's accepting questions from the audience. And so like John Lovitz, my now friend John Lovitz, raises his hand. He goes like, Tom. He goes, who do you think is the best cast member? And he's like, I don't know, Will Ferrell. And he sits down feeling dejected. And then he answers another question. And then John Lovitz, Tom. Who do you think was the best cast member when I was on the show? And he says, I don't know, was Will Ferrell on back then? And so they're setting up this like really great thing. And the third time he goes, Tom Hanks. And he goes, yes, John Lovitz, everyone. He goes, if you like Will Ferrell so much, why don't you marry him? But that's not the joke I'm referencing. I just wanted to throw that one out there. Victoria Jackson stands up. And he goes, Victoria cast member from the early 90s, Victoria Jackson. She goes, hi, yeah, listen, I just want to know, whatever happened to me? And he goes, well, you retired from acting and you live in Modesto, California, and I understand you're pretty happy. And she goes, oh, good, thank you. And she sits down. And I used to think like that was a really great take on that, to acknowledge the fact that like things didn't work out the way you wanted.
I think back to the very first skit on SNL, which is Belushi in the therapist's office, right?
Yep.
And then the therapist has the heart attack.
Yep.
And then he does exactly what the therapist does, right?
I want to feed your fingertips to the Wolverines.
Yeah. That's a short, not surrealist maybe, but absurdist skit. I think they need to be bringing back short form skits again. Because the last few times I've watched SNL, it's always been like a 5-minute everything. Everything's got a whole premise that you got to drag out and stuff versus like little just moments like that are absurd.
There was there's a sketch from, I think, the first season that would honestly never be done today because it's a non-verbal sketch. And it is Gilda Radner and John Belushi both arrive at a laundromat at the same time. And she goes up to the machine, he goes up to the machine, and he stops. He's like, oh, he doesn't say anything, but he gestures for her to take it. And she goes, she denies taking it and offers it to him. And he says, he gestures, why don't both of us use it? And they're like, okay. And so it's a matter of, she takes out this blouse, and then he takes a shirt, and they both throw it in the washer at the same time. And then she takes out a skirt, and he takes out some pants, and then she takes out a bra, and he takes, and they both, like, the end of it is they both, like, throwing their underpants in, and they start the machine, and it kind of vibrates back and forth, and they each smoke a cigarette. And it's just, and it goes on for 3 minutes, right? Like, it's not a very long sketch, but they don't say a single word, and I'm like, this is perfect. This is what we need more of.
Right.
This, this does something special.
Well, like, was it Land Shark?
Yes.
Is a great one.
I mean, we're talking about mainly first season stuff, but they also did a sketch where the gal who played Murphy Brown, why can't I think of her name?
Candice Bergeron or whatever.
Yeah,
Candice Bergen.
So she is sitting on a couch, and Gilda Radner walks in and sits down next to her. And she's like, hi, Fern, how are you? And Candice Bergen goes like, oh, good. How are you? And she goes, boy, am I thirsty. I could drink a horse. And Candice Bergen goes, boy, are you stupid? He goes, it's eat a horse. You could eat a horse. And she goes, huh, that's weird. And she takes like this. He's like, I'll just drink this glass of milk. And Gilda Radner pours it in her purse, and she's like, that milk's not too good. I'm still thirsty. And Candice Bergen looks at her and she goes like, well, that's because you poured it in your purse, you see. I don't know what you're thinking, Fern. No, wait, hold on. Fern's my name. And then Gilda Radner turns to the camera and she's like, we all can't be brainy like Fern here, which clearly was an improvised like line because Candice Bergen loses it. And it's a commercial for the Society of Extremely Stupid People. And again, the sketch is maybe 3.5 minutes tops. And it's so good. It's so good.
Yeah, they need to bring this. They need to bring it back. They need to bring that. That's almost Monty Python style, really.
Yeah, if you are listening to this in close vicinity to when we launch it on Netflix right now, you can watch the Saturday Night Movie, the one that is the 90 minutes right before the first episode airs. So it's like a fictional retelling. It's good. It's really good. I like it a lot. And so I recommend people watch that. It's just really good.
Do you have any other plans for Valentine's Day?
Other than talking to you?
Yeah.
Actually, no. I kind of wondered if I should tell this story or not. I can't tell any of the names, but I've got some major tea to spill.
Oh, please spill.
Some tea that goes really well with Valentine's Day. So someone I knew from much earlier in my life, okay? And I won't tell anyone where because I don't want you to start looking it up. But I knew this girl through similar, like after school activities and stuff like that. And she had been dating her boyfriend forever. They got married. Everything was great. They had a couple of kids. I bumped into her on Giving Hearts Day and I said, hey, how are you? And we talked for a little bit and I said, how's your husband? And I didn't know her husband as well as I knew her. And she said, oh, you haven't heard. And I said, oh, no, what's going on? She goes, oh, well, we got divorced 2 years ago. During the pandemic, he signed up for an OnlyFans account and spent $60,000.
Oh, shit.
And it bled into, finally she was finally she found it out. And so she's like, so we got divorced. And I'm like, uh-huh. And I said,
Oh
like,
my
I
God.
hate to ask this, but what happened to the $60,000? She goes, we sold our house and used that, like essentially the money we had built up in our house, we used it to pay off that debt. Otherwise, I was going to have to own half of it.
Oh my God.
And I was like, that is crazy. So they both still live in Fargo, but she recently gotten into it, but she's like, I can't talk to him. It hurts too much. Like that feels like a real betrayal. Because not only like, she's like, I can understand someone having an affair, but putting us into debt for it is the thing that she felt really was the ultimate betrayal.
That is wild.
So,
and also like that $60,000, like
$60,000, right?
Jesus, like what the fuck kind of porn was he getting?
So get this. That's not where this story ends. Right? So pop some popcorn, baby. Like, get ready. So she tells me that about a month ago she was contacted by her attorney, and the attorney said, well, he has filed to be able to like, it's a thing with their custody agreement where he would like to take the children out of the country on a vacation. And that's not uncommon. So like, if you
Sure.
are divorced and you're taking your kids to Mexico or to Canada, you need to let the other person know, especially if you're in a shared custody situation. And she's like, well, what's going on? He goes, okay, this is where you need to like calm down. I'm telling you to calm down before anything else. He's marrying the girl from OnlyFans.
Oh,
and
shit.
he wants the kids to come to the wedding in Germany.
Oh my God.
And so I am I was like, I don't even know what to say here. And she said, well, like I said no, and it's not going to happen.
Okay,
And
I figured she'd be able to be like,
Right.
yeah, guess what? I'm not going to agree to. That's not
right,
happening.
exactly.
Okay.
And so I was like, where are you at in this whole thing? And
Jesus.
she's like, well, at this point, I think it's just so ridiculous. And I'm like, yeah, it is ridiculous. And she's like, I'm in total and complete like comedy shock. And so I said, this is a hell of a story. And she said, yeah, I mean, it'd make a really good book. And I'm like, actually it would. I would read that book about like someone saying like, if the book starts like on the day of your divorce and it goes back and forth between you rebuilding your life and telling me like how your fairy tale romance ended $60,000 into an OnlyFans account, I could see that. No,
I'm just so curious as to how does, being someone who's a customer of OnlyFans, who's just sending people, like, I guess so yeah, I guess it makes no fucking sense how that would work. Like, oh, she fell in love with me because of the $60,000 I was sending her.
See, so in my mind, what I imagine is it became like a sugar daddy situation.
Yeah.
Right? Where like, this is how they met. And like, maybe he wasn't giving her money directly through OnlyFans, but like, sending her cryptocurrency or whatever the payment was. But like, I also think like it's not unheard of for someone to marry an exotic dancer,
I guess.
mean, I saw a really great documentary once about a lady of the night, a soiled dove, who one day on the mean streets of Los Angeles, a gentleman who is part of a business that buys other businesses and breaks them apart cannot drive a stick shift, and he has to pull over and get directions, and she gets in the car and drives him and agrees to stay with him for the weekend, and they fall madly and truly in love. Have you seen this documentary?
What's it called?
Pretty Woman. And it's about her because she's an attractive, pretty woman. And George from Seinfeld gets handsy with her. So that's probably why George doesn't go out to Los Angeles when Kramer does, is because he's not welcome out there anymore.
Yeah, George has a warrant.
That's right. And Hector Elizondo helps her shop. And the documentary is pretty good. I'm surprised you haven't seen it. You always are telling me about how you like documentaries because they make you feel smarter. That's going to wrap it up for today's show. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to help us continue to produce new episodes each week, visit jjmeetsworld.com, where you can donate to our Patreon, pick up some swag at the merch shop, or follow our link to Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review. You can also follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, all the sites the cool kids are using these days. JJ Meets World is produced every week by Tucker Lucas. You can find out more about Tucker's work by visiting moonbasemaria.com. If you want to get in touch with your host with the most, check out linebenders.com, where you can find direct contact info for JJ or booking information. I still want to start a website called Only Pans, and you use it to show off what you're cooking with.